All right, I got some crazy charts for you here today. Now, this is the most insane economic information you'll ever see in one website. It's called WTF Happened in 1971, and I'll tell you at the end what happened in 1971. So, productivity versus compensation. So, as you can see, the average wage has flatlined since 1971, while productivity has more than doubled. Income gains between the upper, middle, and lower classes used to rise at a similar rate, but since 1971, there's been a massive deviation. This chart shows the income growth of the bottom 90% compared to the income growth of the top 1%. As you can see, there was huge growth for the bottom 90% between 1940 and 1971, with much less growth for the top 1%. But that changed drastically after 1971. Now, if you haven't caught on to this yet, the real change in the economy is that it became financialized instead of productivity based. Average black income as a percentage of average white income. So as you can see, between around 1950 to 1970, there was massive growth in earning power for the black community, but started to really stagnate after 1971. Another big change that was brought on by this is that households were forced to become 2-employee households, and this is right around the time that childcare started escalating in price drastically. And now here we are today because almost every household is forced to have 2 employees. This is just the price of a can of soup. Cumulative inflation since then, over 2,000%. Consumer price index off the charts. Electricity, food, and fruit. How long does it take to save for a house? 1970, it took 2.4 years of work to save up for a house. Today, it takes about 7 years of work to save up for a house, and that was in 2020. I bet you it's a lot higher than that now, or at least around 8 years of work now. Now this one's really shocking to look at. This is our national debt. There's 1970. This one's only at 23 trillion. We did officially hit 30 trillion a few days ago. Now this is a really big part of it. So speculation versus production, that means the amount of stock trading skyrocketed versus the amount of industrial production has been exported out to other countries. And that's what I mean when I say the economy has been financialized. It's not really about what's going on in the real economy with production and jobs and manufacturing. It's much more about the narrative of the stock market. Of course, the savings rate has plummeted because the money's been devalued so much. Even people who don't know much about economics can, subconsciously at least tell their money's being devalued because the price of everything else is going up. This is the United States trade balance. So whenever you hear that we're in a trade deficit, that's what this means. It means that we are buying much more than we are, it means that we are importing much more than we are exporting. There's a lot of really cool political data on here too. So this chart shows that the economy has become the number one spoken about topic in presidential elections since 1970. So this is a disaster. The education system has definitely kept up with inflation on the spending standpoint, but their staff per student hasn't kept up with that, and their scores have definitely not kept up with that. They've flatlined or decreased, if anything. The number of lawyers went through the roof in 1970. Why is that? The incarceration rate went up drastically because it's obviously much harder to get ahead when money is being devalued at such a rapid rate. Percentage of young adults living with their parents still has spiked past where it was during the Great Depression. Now that goes back to the how many years it takes to purchase a house thing. When it takes 4 times as long to afford a house, then you're gonna have a result like this. Median first marriage pushed out much farther. Divorces have skyrocketed since 1970 because finances are a huge reason for divorces. And when your money is being eaten alive by inflation, you're going to be less wealthy. Now this is another ugly one for hospitals. You have physicians in the red, administrators in the yellow, percent growth in U.S. healthcare spending per capita in this blue line. So the spending is kept up with the administrators, who are the people that monetize the hospitals, but the actual doctors have flatlined. So what is the reason for all of this? In 1971, President Richard Nixon took us off the gold standard because the world needed a more elastic system. Now, the way the economy works is that it has to constantly be growing, but when the amount of money in circulation is tied to the amount of gold in circulation, then your economy is limited. So they had to remove the gold standard in order to increase the amount of money in the economy, because that's how you have economic output. You need money to hire people. So it's really unfortunate. There's not a perfect answer for this. If we would have stayed on the gold system, it would have stunted economic growth and been bad in many ways, but obviously getting off the gold standard had a detrimental impact as well.